process, and then maybe also the grant adjustments card, just to kind of see what the expectation is.
Let me share my screen then.
Yeah, that'd be better.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see something.
Okay, cool. And I'm taping the session just so I have just for my reference later on, so I don't miss anything. And you don't need to see this because this is just the back end where I'm building stuff. But it might be the easiest place to show you what the subgrants card looks like. Subgrants card is very simple and straightforward. And these are the elements that are on. There's a workflow status associated with it. There's the request number. That's the grant request number. There's the organization that's associated with the on the subgrant. So that's the organization that the grant's being made to. It's their location.
Richard, I'm sorry. What are we supposed to be seeing? I don't really.
Okay.
I'm seeing your screen, but it doesn't look like what you're talking about.
Okay, you're seeing my screen. Are you seeing my screen go up and down?
No, we just seen a form builder.
See form builder and attribute. Yeah, that's what I see too.
Okay, so let's just make sure we're both looking at the same application, and we'll drive back to. So, do you see the normal Flux portal now?
No.
No. We still see form builder and attributes.
Okay, so then I'm looking at the wrong. So, does it say? Do you see the Flux screen now?
Nope. Same thing.
Must be stuck or something.
Oh, great. Maybe.
Maybe should we get out of GoToMeeting and get back in?
Let me
go out and click back on it and come back in.
Are you seeing stuff scrolling up and down now?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, let's go out and come back. Actually, let me stop showing my screen and hit share main page again.
Now you're sharing, and now we just see a blank page with the address and the web address.
What?
So let me just kind of go down. Don't save. Are you seeing the Flux dashboard now?
Nope, it's still frozen.
Still frozen. Okay, let me jump out and come back in there. Actually, maybe I can just change presenter. And then I made Kirsten presenter. Now let me go take over again and see if that works. Yes, show my screen. Did it refresh?
I could see your mouse move.
You can see my mouse now?
Yeah.
And so can you see this Flux screen here? It's jiggling.
Yeah, it's like it's still loading though because it's all gray, but you can see the Flux header.
Okay, yes, it's a blank dashboard.
Okay, good.
Okay, now you can see the admin.
I can see that.
Okay, so we're going into the admin panel. I'm going to show it to you from the building's perspective because that's the easiest way to show it to you right now rather than starting to load application forms. Although I suppose we could do that. So now can you see the subaward card? The request regrant is what it's called?
I can see it, yep.
Okay. So let me make this a little bit wider. So on this card we have basically the status, because there's a short workflow that's associated with regrants. And I can show you what that workflow looks like really quickly. It's just draft and approved goes to completed. So there's not a long workflow associated with it, okay? Going back into the form itself. It's just loading. So there's nothing additional or special about it. I'm going to go into the builder. And then I'm going to take the easy way out. Let's go into the opportunities card and add a sub-grant to an opportunity. Then you'll see exactly what it looks like. Of course. So that other record is showing some of the so advanced to review. We want to edit this, and I'm going to push it to a stage where we can add a subgrant really quickly, so that we can actually do what we want to do with it. So we're going to move it to granted. It may kick us out because we don't have some critical data associated with it, but let's see if it gives us what we need. Okay, so then down at the bottom here, there's the subawards section, right? And we can click on this button here, which is add a subaward. That's the workflow status for the subaward. That's the request ID. Organization name would be who you're going to subaward the funds to. So let's say West somebody.
Would that organization already have to be registered in the system?
Yes. See how it automatically jumped up?
Okay, yeah, I see. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to select Western Maryland Healthcare Corporation.
Hey, quick question, Richard. If the organization hadn't yet been entered, would then we have to go back and like exit out of this and go add them? And
yes, you would want to add the organization. You want them to be a registered user. Registered user in organization.
And I'm sorry, that request number, is that automatically generated?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
What is the add new under the organization name?
Add new, that's going to take you over to the request card, but that's going to get kind of tricky. You don't want to, I don't think you want to, so this is actually adding a new organization to the organization card. I don't think you want to really do it from here. I mean, it's available, but I think you'll be there. It's the form isn't. I don't like adding things from these submenus to submenus. I think there's the potential for too many nested layers and links. So I wouldn't recommend doing it from here. I'd recommend going back to the organization card. It's the same thing, but I think you'll end up with more consistent results if you just come here and add an organization for here, bring up the organizations card, or just click on this blue button at the bottom, which is adding a new organization.
So,
can we remove that link? Sorry, go ahead.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing.
These? No.
Add new.
These are standard links.
No, I mean the add new. The add new under that.
From the subaward.
Under that subaward. Go back into that.
Okay. Can you add new? No, you can't. You can't remove that from the form. It's just This is one of those Flux components, and you don't have the ability to remove that. If we remove permissions to add new, which is the only way to get rid of that, then this, and you do that on the profile, then this profile wouldn't be able to add new records.
I see. And so, just real quick, we can add an organization in the system without the organization themselves coming in to register?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just, in that sense, you can add contacts the same way. You can add users the same way without a registered user in the system. However, if they need to come into the system, you have to basically go through the connection process, the account creation process.
What I guess that's the question is, if we add an organization in the system, now they need to come in, they need to register. Is somehow when they start the registration process, will they be connected to the information we already filled out for them?
Okay, so this goes back to John's training that he's going to end up having to go through. But I'll go through it real quick.
We'll save it for that then. Okay.
So in order, let's add a new organization now, Richard's Home, and we'll make them a grantee, and we're not. There's a bunch of other stuff we can add to this organization, but that's minimum, right? Now, when we go and so we've added the organization to the system, pure and simple, right? When we go to this opportunity card and we hit, we want it. So there's Richard's Home. We just added that, right? Automatically going to register as a headquarters. There's no user associated with it yet, but we could type in right. So you can the issue with doing it this way, right, and not completing the overall connection is potentially you need to know that Richard Mann is actually associated with Richard's Home, and because there potentially could be Richard Mann 1 or Richard Mann Jr., and you may not know which one just by typing in the name here. You may not know which one to take, right? So the reason that you want to associate the organizations through registration and also link individual users. Come on. Push that. Oh, come on. Let's go back to the organization card real quick. The reason that you want to go through registration and link users is because the registration will add the connection between the organization and the user, right? Or the organization here and this user. So, and once that's established, when you type in my good care org, right, Samson Roach should show up as associated with it, just the way that headquarters shows up as an associated link. It's less of a chance of you mistakenly putting the wrong user against it that way. It can be done. You just have to manage like how you associate users if you don't do this.
I got you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. As I said, John will go through this in depth when he goes through his user training. But so basically, we're on a granted business opportunity, right? It's been awarded. And so the only workflow action that we can take on this is adding it to closeout. We can add a subaward, or we could add multiple subawards. So this organization's My Good Care, right? So it didn't put in it didn't put in Samson. We'll put in an amount for $20. Short summary. Testing. Duration. This is start and end date of the subgrant or subaward. Same difference. And then the scope of the support. Test the interface. And then that's the initiation of that subaward, right? So it's here. If we click on the subaward, it's going to open the subaward in the subaward's card, and we can go in there, and we can see that's the content that's been added to it. That person, subawards are very, very simple, right? You can add documents to them. We do have that communications card that's a embedded link associated with it. But again, we might be better off just using the email component, because I think there's more. It's probably securer using the email component. It's a natural part of the system. The objectives and steps are just the regular smart objectives, smart steps in the system. And this is as wide as this data entry field will go. So if you want to add objectives, an objective will be conduct first test, milestone to achieve, user, and objective name, testing, and then a description. So, but see how tight this gets? What I would do is I would hit save so that you initiated this, and then I would click on viewing it, and then you can complete the this objective and the steps that are associated with it. And then you can also add additional tasks from this open objectives.
Let me ask you this. Is there a way, instead of those objective tasks, is there a way to add, well, I'm thinking of two things. One is, oftentimes we'll do subawards in which, even before we can actually issue the subaward or get it to the point where it can be executed, there might be certain requirements that we need to be fulfilled before we can execute that subaward. And then on the flip side of that, once the subawards are executed, there might be certain things we want to build in to monitor that subaward. You know, such as, just like we have to give deliverables or reports to our sponsors, the subawardees have to submit information to us, so we may want to outline the report deliverable dates.
So we want to add milestone reports to subawards.
Right, that's one of the things I'm thinking about. Correct. You know, right, milestone deliverables. But I was saying, even before the subaward is fully executed, I mean, you know, we're saying, okay, here's the subaward.
So Knox, when you say fully executed, you mean that the individual isn't allowed to see this subaward, or that they have additional activities that they need to perform and load stuff up or upload documents.
Right, right. So they're right. They're oftentimes, typically what would happen is there's certain information we have to, as part of our vetting process of the subawardee. There's certain information we have to get before we ultimately turn it over and get that subaward process through our iContract system. We're sort of kind of doing it as part of our iContract system now, where we get certain preliminary requirement documentation, and then once we have it, then the attorneys do their legal review, and then they send it on to the sub-grantee to execute, to sign. So I didn't know if there was a way in which we could track that, so that we could tell the department, hey, we can't move this on for legal review or execution because this is still outstanding. This, that's what I was thinking about. So
maybe
sort of
more like
milestones
a
to execution.
checklist of requirements.
Say that again.
Maybe like a checklist of requirements
Right.
that would be needed.
So
Right.
I could add a questions component, and that would allow you to add a list of questions to this, and then that person would be able to respond back to the individual questions that were asked of them.
But they would have to just go in and manually enter that information, correct?
They'd have to log into the external portal, and then log and then enter the answers into the into the question responses.
Or we could upload it on their behalf as well.
Or you could upload. So if they just send you in documents, right? So say we take the communications component off of here, and we just add the email attachments component, right? And that way you just hit, boom, send an email the same way that you do. Where is it? Over, I think it's up further on the form. Same way you are here, right? You're adding an email. So we'll add this component rather than this component to the subawards. That way, you click this, it opens up an email. It's going to send it. It associates the email with the record, and we'll send it to me. And then, we just hit send, and off it'll go. So it'll basically.
Now, is that a free form email? We can write.
That's a free form email. You can do anything with it. You can also attach documents to it, right? Just any normal attachments, and you can send it out. So that's going to be the easiest way to send. That's the easiest way to send emails from the system. There it is. It's starting to bounce out. About 30 minutes later, it'll get it loaded back into this component. Well, if we add that to the subawards component, right? You can basically send it out, get the round robin email, and then attach it'll come back in because it'll go out on the emails. Where's the emails component? Right here. So
they wouldn't even need to be registered in Flux to respond to that email. Is that
exactly
correct?
That's correct.
And they could attach their whatever documentation they needed to.
Send it back to the same email address. Just reply all to the email, and it'll come back into this list, and it will end up in the emails attachments doc. And then you'll be able to click on the email here, and if there are any attachments, they'll show up embedded.
Is that the only place? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, if we can still have that checklist, because there's things we need from them, but there's also things we have to do to check them out. But I just want to make sure there's a place to make sure.
Sort of like an internal reminder for ourselves, requirements, sort of like a requirements checklist almost.
Do you have a list of what those checklist items are?
We could come up with it fairly quickly, I would think.
We can come up with a list, but also sometimes they might be different for different type of projects. I guess we can come up with an exhaustive list and just check the ones that apply, basically.
Or we could we have like an other one that we completed and added things to?
Well, I'm thinking the fact that it's free form. Could we, like Knox said, we want to have the flexibility to add things that we might not even know about this point.
Well, so in that case, you're just having an open text box, right? So this is the So see this list here? This is a compliance checklist. If you want to do a compliance checklist, then you have a specific set of items that you want to respond to. So that's your exhaustive list. When you click on it, it's going to bring up a note, and then you're going to type in whatever your response is to that specific issue. That's the compliance checklist. There's another form of this, and so there's your, it's crossed it off, and there's your note over here. There's another form of question that can be posed where, and we have that on the, we've actually used that on the reviews. I'm trying to think where the easiest place I can show you. Is it on this one? No, that's the weighted score. That's the CHI one. That's the weighted score too. This is the okay. So here, see this program questionnaire here, right? This is a special field component. It allows you to create your own question, right? This is a test. And the only problem with it says ask a question. Well, you'll know that you're not looking for a question. You're just trying to do something with that specific field. And then when the grantee responds, they'll be able to go in and hit edit, right? And this is obviously on the review card. But here, this is your question here. So this is my answer. And so we could apply this type of question component to the subawards, and that would give you an open, structured way of asking questions or creating a checklist.
And those would have to be added for every subaward.
Yes, it's a free-form question structure.
Okay, so
that
would work.
So you think of it about it this way: you have sort of three or four ways of going about answering this problem, right? You can have a compliance checklist, which looks like the one that was over here. I think it was up the top here.
Yep.
Where you've got the question. It's a pre-formed question. You know what all these questions are. You check it off. You add a note as to why that issue's been resolved, and you move along. Another way to address it is with a free-form open text box, which is just a regular text area that you hit edit, and then you have the grantee fill out the answer, and maybe upload documents and attachments that way. And the third way to do it would be through this this question format program, through this ad hoc question field, where you could ask as many different discrete questions as were pertinent to that specific subaward, and then either have the grantee answer it if it's going to show up on their portal, or if the grantee's not going to answer the question, those questions would just be there until you answered them.
So Richard, just real quick, So to get to this point, what is the bare minimum that we have to do this? We have to have. I mean, I just want to think what I'm trying to think what. I guess that's it. What is the bare minimum that we have to tie to get to this point?
Okay, so I would say adding on this subawards, I will add a text area where you can reply, because these are the text elements that are there currently, right? Scope of support. I'll add a text area down. Actually, we've got the compliance checklist on here. We don't have any other checklists. So sounds like what you're looking for is another couple of data fields before the grant adjustments and all that stuff, but another couple of data fields where you're saying where you've got an ad hoc question, where you've got a open text box, open rich formatable text box, and then if you want a list, if you want a compliance checklist like this is a compliance checklist, if you want to have one of these too, you just need to get me that list of questions.
So let me ask this, and it probably will be a combination. You know, we probably do want some type of open stuff as well as maybe some type of checklist, but I guess what I'm wondering with the checklist, is it possible, let's say we had some type of exhaustive checklist, and we know sometimes some subawards, some things apply and some things won't apply. Is there any way to sort of chuck off the ones that are going to apply for that subaward, and then that activates that particular checklist, and then then as you receive the documentation, you check off that particular compliance item's been met. I'm not sure that.
So you mean have
that would work.
Sounds like what you want to do is cull down the list of items to okay.
Like a good example might be you know, if it's federal funding, one of the things we want to get from them is their A133.
Uh-huh.
If it's not federal funding, then maybe we don't necessarily need an A133. So that compliance requirement wouldn't come into play.
So you need to know whether or not you need to have it, and
right.
then if you need
then whether or not it's been fulfilled.
Applied.
Right.
Like conditions?
Sorry?
Kind of like conditions?
Yeah, sort of. We could select the ones we know we need to have, but then that puts it into play, and then we need to check when it's fulfilled.
Okay, so let's kind of look at it. What if we look at it this way? This is your checklist of what needs to of what's possible, right? You go through and you. No, that's not what you want. What you want is a list that's like this. Except when you click on it to say that we need this. It's going to mark it off. It sounds like you need two separate lists. In order to accomplish this, you need two separate lists that have the same data points on them. One of them is really one of them would be really a set of check boxes to say whether or not you needed to supply it. Then the next one is going to be when it comes in.
Correct. Now I don't want to complicate this.
That's not a feature that's kind of like that's available. in
Okay.
the build structure, and I'm not quite sure how to do it in a non-complicated way.
All right. Well, don't worry about it then.
But I can provide you a compliance. I can provide you with a compliance list with say 10 or 15 categories, and then maybe I could provide you on this form. I could provide you 4 groups of compliance checklists. Right? Think about it that way, and that way you could say, federal items that are required, or staffing items that are required, or contract documents that are required, and then you could have you could build out that list in groups, and maybe that would help define whether or not you needed them.
Yeah, I think what we'll do, I think if we have maybe both options, it gives us flexibility, because for some things we won't, like, it's probably to have that flexibility, like Jeff said. But for other things, in the federal space, we kind of generally know what those things are.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe.
But the private foundation space is going to be different every time.
Yeah, to some degree. But in any event,
Yeah.
I think if you gave us that option where we can just, either open text box or pose the questions, and then maybe we'll also supply you with a checklist.
If you can get me a checklist by Monday, I can. I'll, even if it's just like 10 things, I'll put the checklist on the form, on the subaward form, and then later on you can just extend that list out.
Okay.
But then you've got a place to build on,
Right.
Okay. Add in the question component. That's an easy one. So if you can give me a list of like maybe five elements, I'll create a checklist, a compliance checklist with 5 elements, and as the stub, and then you guys can build that out later. As you have additional ones, just send in the request to Courtney, and he can add the additional checklist item to the list.
Okay, that'll work.
Okay. So to summarize, we're going to remove this communications component from this subawards card. We're going to add the email component to this card. We're going to add a compliance checklist with 5 questions. We're going to add an open rich text box, and we're going to add an ad hoc question so that you can fill out your own. What would the ad hoc question? What are these question pieces called? So I know what to name the field. And so you know how to refer to them in the reports, and when you need Courtney to add stuff out to them later on.
I'm trying to think of a good name. But sometimes we might have questions for the subawardees for different reasons. Both before the subaward is actually issued and then after the subaward is issued. I imagine it could be used for both cases.
What about like required documentation, or?
Maybe just call it subaward requirements.
Okay. And then kind of just split the questions out. Maybe something like fulfillment requirements, deliverable requirements or something like that. So there's because if it's
Yeah.
3 different fields, they can't all have the same name.
Right.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Any preference on
I'm not
what
going to
those?
throw anyone.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Any
I was
preference on
gonna.
what those subnames would be?
Um, I almost like what you said. You said fulfillment. Maybe execution requirements. Um, or you could say. I mean, if we want to be very general, we could say uh, pre-award and pre-award requirements, post-award requirements, sort of pre-subaward requirements and post-subaward requirements. But in effect, that's what it represents. It's sort of
Okay.
pre-execution and post-execution.
Do you want? So does that mean you want 6 elements?
Oh no! How did you get 6?
Because if you have 3, you don't want. You may have, depending on your type of subaward, you may want to use the rich text box for the
Oh, I see what
pre-award
you're
stuff.
saying.
You may want to use the question for, or you may want to use the compliance stuff.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh yeah.
It's not a big deal for me to create it as long as I know what I mean. I can create six different
Oh, I
fields and just say this group is the pre-award, this group is the post-award.
right. The 3 options under each one. I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. Right.
And I don't mean to complicate it, but there's closeout requirements as well.
So there's a compliance checklist on closeouts on subawards anyway. Is that still a decent list,
We have to take a
or
closer
does
look
that
at
need
that.
to be? Do we need to have a well, that is kind of the I mean that closeout compliance is really the requirements, right? Isn't that right, Cheryl?
I'm trying to look at it. Some of these look a little duplicative, but there might be a couple extra things that we would need for closeout. But
So why don't I add an addition? I'll leave this compliance area and subaward area. I'll leave that alone, and then I'll add a closeout questions, and then you can use the same questions field like here to address any closeout questions that may be there. Will that work?
Okay.
and not have that closeout compliance checklist?
No,
Is that
you'd
what
have to
you're saying?
you'd have that as well.
Oh, okay.
If
Good.
there were additional
Okay.
questions that didn't meet this structured set, you could then kind of ask these additional questions in the closeout questions.
I'm with you.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that I'm capturing this correctly. Can we just summarize what we've all kind of agreed so far?
Okay. So on the subawards card, we're going to add we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to remove the communications component that's there. We're going to add the email component to this card.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, we're going to add 3 fields for pre-award requirements. One is an open text box like this one, a rich text box. One is a compliance checklist that has 5 data elements in it as stubs that you will populate and extend later on. And then the third one will be an ad hoc questions field where you will be able to add additional ad hoc questions for that specific subaward.
Okay, and then I had also had that it would have subsections, or did I write that incorrectly? Just an ad hoc section, ad hoc question section.
In the ad hoc questions, there is the ability to basically add as many questions as you want, and then have somebody respond directly to those specific ad hoc questions.
Okay. So okay.
So that's part of that field type, right? Which is the one that we have over here on the review.
Sure.
So we're going to take that same 3 types of fields, and we're going to also add those 3 fields with a different name to the post subaward requirements. So what we'll do is we'll add 3 fields above here. We'll add 3 fields below the documents component. So pre-award, post-award, and then in the closeout section, we'll add an ad hoc questions in the closeout section.
Okay. Because the other 2 are already there.
Yeah. So Knock, there's a reports schedule here already.
Oh, okay.
And so I had created these milestone reports, milestone notice, and then
And where does that does that mean on the 42nd day of the grant a reminder goes out or something? What does that mean?
So what I did was there are some canned email structures. These are we were talking about the other day, where we needed to create some emails to go out before the milestone is met. So in this case, 42 days prior to this milestone due date, an email will be sent.
And I didn't see a due date anywhere when you picked that
No.
report. Is that in the
Yeah.
background or?
So on the reports card, and I don't actually think I think I have to use a different email or different component. Best way to show you that is from the applications. Running kind of slow right now. Down in schedules.
We could, Richard, and this is a question, I know it doesn't sound like it, but could we set up a reminder to come to us, meaning the SPO department, and then we could, because sometimes our division staff want to contact the people directly, but if we had a reminder come to us, then we could contact the people that needed to get a reminder.
So
that makes sense?
Yeah, it does. So for what I've created is a milestone notice, basically due today. Milestone notice due 7 days before the notice is created, right? So, and 7 days, 21 days, and 42 days. Those are 4 standard increments that are in the system. So if we look at the one that's 7 days, and we'll do, here's the due date getting set. So 7 days before this, the 30th, that report is going to get set. That milestone 7-day notice is going to get set. It is going to generate it on the other side. So basically what I've done is I've created it so when you create these milestone reports, it is taking a long time right now. Flux is actually pushing out a patch today, so it may not have been. There's the update. So this should be the milestone report right here. Milestone notice due October 30th. and then this is the milestone report. It's very, very simple, right? So what I did was I added some milestone questions to it. So in case you want to basically spec out more stuff about this milestone that's going out to somebody, test Q1.
And it doesn't have to actually be a question. It could be a statement like, please submit your report to such and such.
That's exactly right, Knock. And you can add multiples, but the only thing is it's a question component, right? So, or it's a question type field. So the format of the question is a question. So then when you hit the edit, that person, so here we can add the title for the milestone. So test new sub award features. And then milestone follow-up actions required are begin test, document, approach, and then here's that question that we set, right? Results look okay. So in that case, everything's been.
And how do you set up who this goes to?
Ah, good question. So these are set in the admin panel, and we determine, so that report is actually just set on that milestone is set on the report. That milestone doesn't actually go out. That milestone just sits there as a marker on the record. And so in card documents on the report type, we have emails that are set. And so I've created this milestone alert 21 days, milestone alert 7 days, milestone alert 42 days. So, and they're enabled. So if you click on the milestone alert, and this is the content that I put in that milestone alert. So we hit edit for that for a second. Attention, the project titled, and this is the project title number, has an upcoming milestone of, and that's the milestone title that we put in, due to occur on this date. This alert serves as seven days notice of the pending milestone. We anticipate follow-up actions at this point. And the follow-up actions are that text box that I had in there that were options. And then it's just saying, please log into the Flux system and update your grant records. And then it's just a salutation. So down the bottom of here is who it can go to, right? So in that case, just updated. So we can do state-driven, but we don't want to do state-driven in this case because we're not. There's not much. We want it to go out before at a specific time. So we want to do time-driven, right? So time-driven emails are here, right? So this is saying 7 days before this email. Due within 7 days. So it's going to go out on the 7th day. Right, so 0, 7, 14, 21, 28. Those are the increments that are automatically set. We're not using the workflow. This is basically tying it to that milestone report. And then down, actually up a little. So we're sending it out to the program lead. And of the grant, so this is tying back through to the grant request card to the program lead, and the secondary program lead. So what does that mean? On the grant, but this is where you specify this, right? So there are a few places that you can assign emails to assign reviewers, to the fiscal organization, to the primary contact for the organization, to the grantee, to the registration email. We don't use that too often. to the user payee. These are special categories that are on special special areas of the application that we've set. The program lead is an internal program person that we're setting at the top of the application cards. Related user is associated with the program organization component, and the secondary program lead is also associated with the we're also setting on the application itself. So that's where you.
Where is SPO in all of that?
So, these are default. You can't add anything else here, and you're not sending anything out to. These are individuals, right? So we're not doing that. The way to get this to go to SPO is going to be on the grant opportunity, which is the request, which is the master for this, right? So the grant itself, the SPO official is not there. There's a project component that we've been. I may not have added it to this request yet.
Why couldn't you do that SPO official?
Sorry?
Oh, is that because why could you not do that SPO official that you had earlier?
The issue is the SPO official is a specific data field, and that's not it's not assignable in that list of fields. You have to kind of push you have to push the SPO official, make that SPO official assigned to this application.
Got it. Okay.
So where we're doing that is.
I got to actually run to another meeting, so y'all could stay on. And I assume you have a way of figuring that out. I was just curious, though. Some of that background stuff you were just showing, the admin stuff that, obviously once y'all turn this over, we'll have to maybe do some of those adjustments. Mm-hmm. Is that designed for the admin or the super users to do, or both?
That is designed for the admin to do.
Okay, I got you.
Because we don't want anybody else kind of going back in there and inadvertently switching something off or just thinking something doesn't look right. And as soon as you make one, the whole system's data driven. So as soon as you make one change, it takes effect. So see here we have this project lead preliminary review. There is this project lead is associated with the project. The project is this is where we're assigning kind of like the project lead and the alternate project lead. There's a secondary user that pops down here. These two, this assignment is where which is where we will pick up where that special report milestone report email goes to. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But it's going to tie back through to the original grant request.
Now, when you were showing us how it was set up on the back end, you were actually setting up the template for the email for that milestone, correct?
I was setting up.
That would be.
I was looking at this. So yes. On this milestone report, right? We set the milestone title. We set the actions required, and we set a couple of things. Right?
Questions, yeah. But we set that for any subaward or anything that uses that milestone moving forward, right?
We're assigning this milestone, which is an open milestone. You can craft this to whatever you want it to be, right? You're assigning this milestone to a specific award, grant, opportunity, or subaward. And then
Okay.
you're going to, because that milestone is a 7-day milestone, has a 7-day threshold kind of built against it. 7 days, it's going to send out the 7th-day alert. Right?
For any that you apply that to.
Exactly.
Okay, but I guess I just wanted to confirm that when you were setting up this stuff on the back end, you're setting it up for that. I just forgot the word. The 7-day. You're setting it up for any time that is sent out. That is the template that they follow.
So that's right. It's really a mail merge, basically driven from driven from the content that you're placing in the report, in the milestone report itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you're tweaking it. That's how you're customizing it. You can't customize the date that it's sent out, but by providing an array of different milestone reports that are 5-day report, 7-day report, 10-day report, then you can say, I'm going to, this particular award needs a milestone on this date, and I need a 7 days before that date, I'm going to need the project lead to get a message.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And can we add more milestones, or are those it? You can
add more milestones of date suspense duration or date suspense type to the list of available milestones, but you can add multiple milestones to any grant opportunity, right? So on this, you could add 15 milestones. You could schedule 15 milestones to this application. And then let's edit this. And then you just put those milestones at different dates, and you call those milestones different things.
Could, Richard, if we had like 20 subawards, say, and we all wanted them to get a notice 7 days before documents were due, but they each had different documents due, could we set up 20 different 7-day milestone?
That's what I was trying to ask. Thank
one
you.
one for each subaward?
Yes.
Yeah, I would set them up one for each subaward because they'd all have different things.
But that can be done. Is that difficult to do?
It can be done. It's gonna start getting really tricky because no, it's not difficult to set it up. All right, we just need to be very the more complex we make the subaward activities, the more testing and the more complex it's going to be in general, because everything in Flux kind of falls back to the main grant, right? So the organization in this case is really flowing through. So we're setting an organization here that's going to get some $20 for doing some testing, but when we start issuing subawards, we want to make sure that we'd have to do. I think we have to. The answer is we have to do a lot more testing in terms of when you start issuing milestone reports against these subawards, whether or not the milestone report is going to go to the intended user. In this case, the intended user is Samson, right? And it's not the person that's on the parent. So it just means we got to know who we're trying to get this notification to. I think this is my point. So in that sense, you're looking for. So in that sense, you probably be looking for more of a grantee reminder or an organization reminder, which is that is getting complex. Yeah, I think there's a level of complexity there that quite frankly concerns me that we're going to have enough time to rigorously test it and verify that it's going to the right people.
Could we, you had back on that template, I think set up, there was a CC section. I mean, can you not select anybody and then put specific people in that CC?
You can, but then you're saying that this on the admin panel that this email of this type is always going to go to that person, right? So, for instance, when in the BOR opportunity, in the BOR process, the grant opportunity seeking grant process, we had some canned emails in there, right? And so what I did was I hard coded in my name on that email type, so that every time it went to a certain workflow state, I would get that email, so I knew that something was going out. I know Gail was one of the people that wanted a specific email to go to her at a specific time, but that's saying at this workflow state, anytime this email is used, send it to this person. And I think that's going to be a heavy lift when you're trying to specify multiple individuals at the subaward level for that letter to go to. And that's why I say I think it's getting to,
and not just multiple individuals, different requests within
different people. Okay, yeah,
right.
I would think it would probably be better, quite frankly, to send the email to the project manager or the program lead, and with the instructions of send Joe from this organization an email that has this specific information in it, right? Because then they can come in here, they can click on then they can go down to the communications section, and then just hit the email component, which will be, where is it? It'll be here, right? It'll be this thing. They'll come into the subaward question. They'll scroll down to this section. They'll click on that. They'll add whatever additional information they need to, and just hit send. And then it'll be part of the record. And then they control it. I mean, you've been notified to send so and so, a system message that I mean, it's not as automated as you might want it to be, but it provides you more control.
Now, is this how it works?
I think the key is.
Side?
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, I think the key is that somebody gets a reminder. So whether that's an internal reminder to send out, I think that works for me.
Okay.
And real quick, Richard, on that screen while you have it there, I think we need to change that email address because the emails actually come from programgrants_no reply@cancer.org.
The POP3 email address is only going to be able to come from the ACS. It's only going to be able to come through that Gmail account because we can't do the certificate. Remember?
Right, but I think we were still able to mask it. Let me look.
Okay.
Hold on.
Well,
Um,
How are you able to mask it?
not mask it, but I have a reminder.
I know you. So on the.
Oh, am I in? Maybe that's a workflow email.
So yeah, that would probably be workflow emails and the system emails, right? So when the system sends out emails, it's sending it from from your program grants with that address. But
And that's where we
this
mask
is
it. So never mind.
routing out through that Gmail email service, and we couldn't get because you're on a hosted multi-tenant site. We couldn't get the certificate opened up.
Okay.
Which reminds me, Bobby is looking into the request about masking the overall flux.io, ACS flux.io server address. He's got a question into our back-end tech guys to find out what we need to do in order to get that moved along, and if there are any issues with that. Because most people end up just keeping the ACS flux.io.
And actually, we don't need to worry about that because we just did a redirect on our side, so we're okay with that. What we're needing is the CSR so that we can update this SSL certificate.
Okay. Well then, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. I'll just make sure Bobby's well, Bobby will make sure Bobby's getting that. He's pretty good. To make sure Bobby's doing nothing. Okay. Any other questions? That you can think of?
Cheryl, I wanted to, and to whomever else wants to listen, these are some things that, as we get more familiar with the system, Courtney can experiment and we can try some new things, after we gain a basic understanding.
Yeah, so I would say that, like, just be mindful that once you're up and running and live, you'll get a test environment, you'll get a pre-prod environment where you can make changes and verify things are going to work the way that you want them to work. When you move things over to production, once you're set in production and you're using the system, you don't want to start changing field types underneath the data, because that can cause you to lose data, right? So if you have a select field and you then want to make that a text field, it's going to basically invalidate that data field and it won't take all of the content that was in the select field and merge it into the text field for you. It'll just say, okay, you want to change this data field type. Done. Now start over.
Okay.
All right. So be mindful of that. Lessons learned from another project a while back. It's like, I did what?
Exactly. Duly noted. Okay.
Yeah. And it's very, very easy to do. Just make sure you test everything out thoroughly first. Okay, so other questions? Kirsten, did we want to go through any questions on program hierarchy or anything like that?
Yeah, I do have another question about that. So.
And Kirsten,
Yes,
I get often about 10 minutes or so here.
Okay.
This
well,
is
you
Cheryl,
guys are.
by the way.
Hey, Cheryl.
Yeah, we're still on. Hold on. Knock is yes. Just getting ready to talk budget hierarchy. Okay, I think Knock's getting back on. His call's done. Okay, so let's see. Can you go ahead and open up the 4 budget levels again, please?
Absolutely. Let me just close the rest of these.
And you guys don't have to stay on for this. We're just clarifying one little thing.
Are you kidding me? It's free training.
Exactly.
I will stay until I have to leave. How about that?
There you go.
Okay, that works. What we're trying to do, we have the budget hierarchy all done. What we're trying to do is to make it work with the seeking and subgranting. And so, and actually, Richard, do you want me to?
Why don't you drive?
Yeah. Okay. So actually, hang on to that screen. Can I share my screen real quick?
Yeah.
Let me open up my file. I was talking to Greg and Knock, and where did it go? What is the matter with me? Hold on. Okay, I just have to look at it. Bear with me just a moment. Okay. All right. So this is the structure that we have set up. So we have the verticals that Greg created for his little bucket budget report. I don't know. That's what I called it. I don't know if that's appropriate, but and those will be our level 1 program of work. So we've got prevention and detection, programs and services, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. We also have intramural research and international for global. And so, and then I think we added another one. We added a few more down here based on a conversation that we had with Greg. So we added chief medical office and office of chief cancer control. Mm-hmm. So we have those. Those are good to go. And then we have the area 2, or the area which is the level 2, and these have the various codes to define, further define the area of the vertical.
Right.
And then our level 3 is our state or country, and ignore the other stuff for right now. And then level 4, of course, is our fund code. Well, we had.
Can I ask a real quick question, Kirsten?
Uh-huh.
I noticed in level 1 and level 2, we're using NH, which refers to the corporate center. Do these program of works and areas also cover the divisions?
They do. So,
okay.
And maybe we just remove these codes. I mean, it may be that the codes right here aren't needed because it's just patient and caregiver support, and we can work that out. Is that Knock?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So I was just giving a quick overview of what we have done so far. And Cheryl asked a really good question. Do we even need these codes that sit in the front of the level 1 or the verticals?
That's a great thing.
That's a great question too. Okay.
Well,
and the reason I ask that mainly is because Greg really is just for the corporate center, and I just want to make sure this covers us for the divisions as well.
Yeah, I asked that question. He said it does. The way, in terms of the roll-up and the way it reports out, the divisions fit within this structure. He's not tracking the divisions separately. They, for purposes of their programming, they would fit up under prevention, detection, or program and services, patient caregiver support, healthcare systems. Because I asked that exact question. I said, is there a separate group for divisions? He said no.
Okay, so I think we probably can just remove this code, because if he's not using this code at all, it just happened to be there because it was on his document, then we might be able to remove that.
Or it could be that the CCPD is nationwide, but the NH is just specific to the corporate center.
Right.
I don't know.
We will further define the state down here in the level 3.
So I have a question. Could we just take the NHCCPD and put that in the description field, whereas so that it splits it apart, so that you still have that tracking of what that's about, but it doesn't need to be quite so long and bulky.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say. So yes.
Well, I guess I'm a little curious, because to me, that level 1 prevention detection, that is something that Greg reports on. Is that not? And I know there's some conversations that have taken place, but is that not one of the board reports that he has to report underneath that?
Right.
Right. It is.
All we're doing is wanting to remove the NHCCPD from the label itself. That's all, so that it's not so lengthy.
I would probably ask. I still would run that through Greg and see if there's some reason why.
I mean, if he needs it in the title, so that because he's stripping the title in some other reports and trying to marry it up with some other data, then it probably makes sense for it to be there. But,
yeah. Okay, well, I'll ask him that, but it's a very good question, though. I mean, if he doesn't need it for anything, then maybe we could shorten it. That's all, and be easier to read. Okay, so, but in answer to your question, Cheryl, the different states will be identified on level 3 for the location, regardless of what that says.
And can we have it not just state, but could we have just some we don't bring down to the state level, we bring down to the division level? Can we have as many different locations as we want, I guess I'm asking.
We can, but remember, the state and division are kind of 2 different levels, and we want to leave it fluid enough that if we do merge any other divisions, or a division or a state jumps ship and goes to another division, if we have another reorg, it's easier to group them by state if they're already grouped by state, rather than having to undo a lot of stuff for division.
And if it's a national level grant that doesn't go down to the state, is that just a dummy level, or how does that work?
We will just have corporate center.
The corporate center?
Couldn't you do multi-state or?
Yeah, so I was gonna get to that, because these are all for the grant making. But if we have it, and knock, this is Richard. Sorry, Richard. This is the question that we have for you. So I think that okay. So what I thought we were doing is for the SP ones. This is for all the grant seeking. So it's the same buckets that we are looking at for the verticals. But we threw an SP in front of it to show grant seeking or SPO. And they will have the same level 2s. And then the level 3 would be corporate center or multi-state, or if we wanted to, these are for the grant seeking. And Nak, you may have to explain this better than me, but then what we were going to do is have the sub-awards that are sent out from that grant seeking grant we can match it back up.
Does Greg care?
So the sub.
I mean,
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, go ahead. I mean, what? You know what? We'll take it offline because that's internal. I was just wondering if but go ahead.
Well, and that's the question. Okay, so Richard, going back to what we were originally going to do, I was under the impression that this would be like the incoming, and then the outgoing subawards would fall under the regular bucket, but not redirected, and I guess we can't do that, so the subawards need to appear down here under the SP.
Okay.
Well, first of all,
So
there's a question of.
Go ahead, Knock.
Again, remember, this is just high level, where things sort of fall with regard to these high level program areas of work. One question I guess I didn't get clear from Greg was whether or not we even, once we track the prime incoming award, whether or not was it even important, or does it even care about the subawards?
Well, see, I guess what I thought was that Greg, remember what he's doing is the expenses for the report. So, I mean, to me, prevention detection, it doesn't matter if it's money that came in. What he cares about is how was the money spent, and all prevention detection is going to carry the same code. So I don't. That's what I was saying. I don't know that he cares.
No, well, I think this is a little different because he is getting questions about, in terms of grants going out. I mean, I'm talking about actual, not subawards, but grants going out in these different areas, as well as money coming in the door. Like Dr. Winder is asking questions about that money we're bringing in the door, and then so the next logical question is, well,
so
how much prevention detection money did we bring in?
Well, and I guess that's what I was thinking. If we have money that came in the door for prevention detection, we put it in a restricted fund that starts with a CPD. And so he could easily pull all the funds that had CPD and say, okay, this is all the money that we got that was restricted for prevention detection.
So, Knock, just from my perspective.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank
All right,
you.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay. From my perspective, Knock, this works well. The SPO seeking grants being a separate set of budget levels makes total sense. The only question in my mind is, as long as you're not allocating any funds to be spent on grant making down on this side, on these grant seeking grants, we're okay, right? Because the outcome of this, I mean, basically you're just saying kind of where the money's going to get spent, but not how it's going to get. Where you're saying where it's getting budgeted, but not how much is getting allocated to a specific line item down here on because you're doing that elsewhere, right? But basically on the grant seeking side, you get the monies in, you put that money into a fund code, into a funding source that is the amount of money that you get to spend on, right? That's not coming, but you're not allocating out in that same at the full. You're not allocating funds from those buckets there in the fourth level in the grant seeking side.
Okay,
well, only in the sense of doing subawards. That's about it. But
So I
we're
just
not
want to
trying
make
to
sure.
track. We're not trying to track budget line item expenses with this thing. We're just trying to
No.
Right.
track buckets, not only buckets of money we bring in, but also the number of grants, maybe grants or sponsored projects that fall under these areas, basically. But Jeff, you're saying you can already do that from the fund code?
Well, yes, because, and I guess that's why, and not, I mean, we had talked a while back, and there was, we talked about how the hierarchy has morphed here, and I haven't gotten together with Kirsten to talk about how this stuff's all going to flow through. But, if money comes in, and if it's restricted to prevention detection, okay, we call that, we have that fund code set up, CPD, cancer prevention detection. Now, the stuff over on the left, like healthcare systems, well, we don't have money. If somebody says, hey, this money is for healthcare systems, well, healthcare systems is not a program. A program is quality of life, patient services. That's how we set up our fund code. So I guess over here on the left, I'm just curious, because the only way we get to those codes is through that activity sequence. Or if you can scroll down, Kirsten, underneath I need to see below line. Yeah, so there's two prevention detections. You have SP on line 4041, and then you have sub on 4647. Well,
yeah, ignore that for right now.
Ignore the sub one.
Ignore that. Yeah, ignore that.
But what I was going to say was, when we get money that's restricted to prevention and detection, regardless of the state and the program underneath it, we set up a fund code, and it begins with the CPD. Can you scroll on down a little bit more? See there, like you see there, we have intramural research. Well, we don't have a fund that says intramural research. We have research. We don't have healthcare systems. We have quality of life. We don't have patient caregiver support. We have patient services. And so to divide it to that level, we only do that with the expenses. We don't do that with the fund code because we don't restrict money in that category.
Yeah, but again, so I think you might be looking at it from a different perspective then.
Yeah.
So this allows us at a very high level then to track those kinds of things that you're already admitting that you wouldn't be able to do with the fund code.
But that's what I'm looking at is if you go over to the fund code in D and you say, okay, what is the fund code? So let's go down to, not that one. Let's go down to healthcare systems. Okay, that fund code, we don't have a fund code that's set up for healthcare systems. So there's no way we could go from a fund code up to level 1 because we have to do that with activity codes.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't think we have to work it that way. I think we get the fund code, whatever the fund code is. It's fairly, once we know what the project's about and all of that and who's involved, and it's an easy selection to select these levels 2 and 3. So I think you're looking at it as if you select the fund code and the fund code will automatically drive the other things, and I don't think it necessarily works that way.
Well, I guess, and that's what I said. I haven't really, Kirsten. We haven't done anything about that. But what I'm trying to do is say, how are we connecting 4 to 1? And I can't do it. And so you're right. If on the hierarchy, if level 4 is a fund code, and you can say, okay, or if level 4 contains the fund code, and you say, oh, yeah, this is, I mean, it's under patient caregiver support, survivorship, whatever. I mean, yeah, that could do it. I'm just going from, just trying to go from the data that we have in Lawson to the report that Greg needs. And so maybe, Kirsten, that's what you're going to do in business objects. I don't know.
Yeah, so all of the really technical Lawson data is all going to be done. It's going to have to be done through business objects. This is just a very high level to be able to group things so that at a glance you guys will be able to report, okay, so how much money is going to the state of Kansas? How much is going towards cancer screening? How much is going towards prevention detection? These are just the very high level buckets and don't have any bearing on the coding itself. Like this is so, and once we made that distinction, it really became very simple. So,
well, then we'll just take this offline and not waste Richard's time with it.
Okay, but I still have a question for Richard.
Oh, sorry.
So,
I'm just, okay. No.
That's okay. Okay, so make sure that I am understanding this correctly. So all of the SP codes were going to be incoming or seeking, and then we were going to show that the subawards going out then are under the non-SPs. So I have a little example over here. So this is, $20 that came in, and so we would a grant for 20 that it would get coded to this prevention and detection for grant seeking under cancer screening. Corporate center is what we would code it to, and then there would be a fund code. Is that a correct coding? Knock.
I guess the question we have to ask is this. If the question is, Dr. Winder, the board wants to know, okay, how much in sponsored projects for, the tobacco center, which is prevention detection, or, cancer screening or whatever, would they also want to know, okay, well, how much did we subaward out?
Okay, I'm not even there yet. I'm not even there. This is just to show what has come in so far. So is this a realistic example? Maybe not.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So then let's say $10 of that is going out in a subaward to the great state of Kansas, where the Jayhawks reside. That is then going to get coded to, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Let's do it this way. That is then going to go, it's going to get coded the same way, but without that seeking level 1. We're just going to go straight to the prevention and detection. And then we're going to go to cancer screening. This time instead of corporate center, it's because it's going to Kansas, and then it would be coded by this, I don't know if it's the same fund code, but then you would be able to, at a glance, show what sponsored SPO is brought in. You'd be able to show what has gone out in the form of a subaward. Oh, and then this is, we would call this, that would be that subaward - Kansas. So you would know that it's not just a grant making line item. It is actually a subaward of a SPO grant seeking thing. That is how we had it set up as of before we last talked. Knock. And then when we last talked with Greg, and you guys said it wouldn't work to have these subawards in these categories, so that's when, Richard, I said I needed to talk to you, because did we need to create a third set of verticals for subawards? And so that's where we are right now. So I don't know.
see what you're saying. The 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 grant seeking money is coming in. It's getting cataloged at level 1, 2, and level 3 multi-year, but there's no allocation that's going to go into the fund code that's associated with at level 4. However, in fact, it may not even need to go down to level 4 if you don't want to put a fund code there.
Right.
Um, what you need to do when you're going to issue out sub awards is have a third category that does go down to the sub award to the fund code level where you're going to allocate funds.
And when you say third level,
I mean third vertical.
A third vertical.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
That makes sense to me. My biggest concern is that that the grant seeking funds don't get any allocated funds going against them because they go so you can allocate funds at the sub award on these sub awards if you can have fund codes that get associated to individual sub awards. That would make sense, but that's a different swim channel than the grant seeking channel.
Okay, so
It's just it in effect becomes just an additional bucket, or it becomes an additional horizontal group at the one level that are going to have level 2 assignments to them. Now, is it going to be prevention and detection, intramural services on grant seeking, all of those others as well? Or is it just SP, prevention and detection, and you're done with it? These are your inbound. This is the inbound category for your grant seeking grants.
No, it's all
that
of
is
them.
a not question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just that prevention detection. That's why she has the SP listed by all of them. She just repeated it again.
Right.
Yeah, I just put that one in there because I needed to check with Richard to see if that was the way to go.
So if you're going down to what, number 20, is it 24 or 36 before you repeat?
Okay, I go down to
From 2 to
36. So
36. Then repeat it for grant seeking. Then repeat it for sub awards.
Yes, and I just put that one there because we were talking, and I just added it right next to it on a whim. So ignore the blue highlighted rows. I'll add that to the bottom. And so here are the rest of the SPs. And then we added a couple more during the call. So I'll go back and resort them, but there'll essentially be 3 levels then, or 3 sets of verticals. So going back to my simple example over here, the $20 that comes in through SPO is going to be entered as vertical SP, prevention, detection, blah, blah, blah. But then when we go to sub-award it, we will put it in that third new bucket of sub, and then it will match whatever level there. It'll just have the sub versus SP. And then these will, so we won't have to say sub-award here. So that's what it'll say. And I just wanted to make sure that that was the correct way because I thought we just need to take this out on all of these. And just wanted to make sure that that was the right way.
I think that way will work. I'm getting concerned that on the number of records that we're going to have in the budget tree, and whether or not we're going to get any performance hits on it.
So let me ask you this. For purposes of just knowing, answering the question of, um, you know, how much did we award out, subaward out in prevention detection? You wouldn't be able to answer that if you just made subaward as part of level 3, as part of location. If you said subaward dash Kansas, and another one was subaward dash Georgia, or wherever it was, subaward Uganda, you wouldn't be able to then, that wouldn't be enough, I guess, to answer the question, in terms of subawards, how much were for prevention detection or health systems. You literally have to have another vertical in order to answer that question.
Let me ask you this question, Richard. Can you run a report, an ad hoc report, just on level 3, or do you have to do level 1, then level 2, then level 3?
I believe you can generate it on an ad hoc report on level 3.
Does that answer
But you're
your
going to come
question?
back with a spreadsheet.
I'm sorry?
You're going to come back with a spreadsheet, right?
Right, but then you could subtotal, right?
Well, I mean, I guess I don't know if it answers my question, because I don't know what the reports look like. I don't know.
The reports, okay, so Knock, the reports look like spreadsheets. I mean, they're the output from the ad hoc report generator is a spreadsheet. It's a common delimited file. It will give you back some groupings and some totals, but for the most part, it is just.
So if you ran an ad hoc report on level 3.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me just change presenter for 1 second.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Can you? Yeah, show my screen. Can you see this report? This spreadsheet that's on my desktop. So this is an ad hoc report that I ran against a different system, and with some basic totals on. I wanted the name, request received, the award amount, and a couple of other data points, right? When the trustee approved it. So that's a very, very standard, straightforward ad hoc report. It's grouped with a total for those areas, and it's just a big long spreadsheet, right? It's not going to come out with pivot tables or you can do some of these fields, like each of these header fields. Each of the header fields is a data point that you're specifying in the ad hoc report builder, and you can create an Excel, not macro, an Excel formula to go into one of these or a couple of these fields. Come on. But basically, so then you'd have equals blah 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 whatever the formula is. I've got to enter something.
And I guess what I was wondering is, in the ad hoc report area, can you literally select just the level 3?
Don't save that. The ad hoc report tool. There's the ad hoc report tool. What I can do is I can add a new report. And so level 3 is initiative. So there's program, sub-program is level 2, initiative is level 3, so we want to look for the initiative.
And we probably can't rename those, can we?
No, it's already renamed in terms of its presentation back to the rest of the system, but the ad hoc report tool doesn't reflect some of that. So we'll call this level 3 report test, and we'll just hit save report for the time being, right? And then we can go back in and we can edit the report, and we can add fields, individual fields to it. So we'll add the name. We'll add model updated. See, there's the formula you can add. We'll add the description. And we'll save. We're not going to add any, we're not going to. So, and then you just hit generate report. No,
And I know it
upload
won't.
report. The wrong thing. There's the generate report. Yes.
Oh, that's what I was just going to ask, if we go ahead and do it, even though I know there's no data in it.
Well, there should be data in the level 3, right?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
There's this. And we didn't start asking, we asked for the, there's it being generated and downloading as a spreadsheet. So we asked for the name, so that should give us the name, though, that, and we asked for the description. That's all we asked for in that report.
Okay.
So let's take a look and see if it. Those are the names that we have, and those are the descriptions. So if they're number values, then we can, then we can total and group them. But obviously you can't do that by. Well, you probably group these by. Well, they should probably. They're probably most of them are individual. So, and they're probably the names are going to be individual anyway, aren't they? Because they're going to be your.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
So,
yes.
so Knox, if you could go.
If you had the sub-awards in level 3, you'd have to be able to find a way to take them out and group them.
Well, yeah. Well, basically, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to have a spreadsheet, right? And then you can have a spreadsheet that you can then download at any time, and then you're going to put that into some other tool to do some additional analysis to it.
And I guess you wouldn't want to just run level 3. You'd have to run the other levels because level 3 by itself, I guess, doesn't mean a whole lot.
No, but if you wanted to be able to run a report of all sub-awards, for instance.
Right.
Or, I mean, I guess the question that we had when we were talking with Greg is...
if you had the sub-awards in there, you could say filter, and then you could add a specific filter where, field name contains, contains SU for sub-award, whatever it is.
Yeah, or sub-award, yeah.
And it's not going to change these ones that have already been generated, right? So we'll cancel that. But then you hit generate the report, and it's going to generate the report again. So now we'll generate it a third time, and it'll get loaded into the documents component. Now, FYI, word for the wise. One of the reasons that we are removing ad hoc reports from general population is because you probably don't want to have everybody in their mother be able to go in and see all of the ad hoc reports that are in here,
Mhm.
right? I mean, certainly at the division level, you don't want that to happen, and you don't want them to be able to go in and generate or to. So only super users can go in and create new super users and admin can go in and create new reports. But the question becomes: do you want everybody to be able to see and generate reports? And because they basically puts out spreadsheets like this, the spreadsheets are a stamp in time, and so this is what your data look like in that report structure at this point in time. Oh, there's a couple with SU in it.
Mhm. So what is encouraging to me is that we could say somebody was needing to know how much money was awarded to the state of Kansas. You could go in and do this, and at level 3, the name contains Kansas. Then it will pull any subawards given out or just regular grant making awards or anything, and it will total it for you.
So the other thing that you can do is and then we're getting way down into the weeds of this, but the other thing you can do is, I think you can can you add cross-card filters to this? Subtitles. This is how you show them in the live reports. So you can actually generate this and then show this up here in the live reports.
Oh, live report, okay. Like publish it or something?
Yeah, basically. Runtime filter. No, so there's a cross-card filter that allows you to bring in data from multiple places, but let's see.
And we can look through that later.
I think we need. So what we may have to do is make sure whenever you run your reports, you have specific request keys or keys associated with them, so that you can marry it up into in your other reporting tools. I mean, this is just going to give you the raw output, the raw data output. I know Flux has been working on some other special ad hoc reporting tools, but
relational things. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's encouraging.
Tristan, is it your understanding then instead of another vertical, you could just put it in the level 3?
That's what I'm wondering. That's what I had originally understood.
I mean, based on what Richard just did.
So let's
I guess
go
not too
back.
complicated to have all those verticals.
Let's go back to your diagram for a second.
Okay, but I just thought of something, and I think that Naku probably just answered the question right there. If you wanted to run any level 2 or level 1 reports and you don't want any subawards, you can't do that unless you have this separate sub vertical. Is that a realistic?
Well, you can always apply the filter. So we said it contains SU. You can always do the reverse of that.
Does not contain. Okay, yeah, I guess you're right.
Right, in level 3 in the location, yeah, you could do that.
So I'm just thinking, the only thing that we don't have when we're generating that out, because funding isn't showing up in that report.
That's what I was going to ask.
Because all of the fund allocation is occurring at the
payments.
Well, the allocation is at level 4, but the funds that are associated with it are on the request.
Right.
So what you'd have to do would be to generate a report on the requests where then you'd have to add some specific fields that were cross-guard filtered to the funding code, to the associated funding code. I think we have to play with that to figure out exactly what we're looking for and how to add it.
Okay. I don't know if I have. Actually, do you want to just show your? I mean, we don't have to do it now. I know it's kind of late in the day, but I just I want to be able to say that this is done, but until we know for sure.
Okay, so I'll share my screen. Okay.
What about can you run it from the request card?
Yeah, that's so we look for grant request. So request funding and test and hit save reports. Auto filter header row, not going to worry about that. Add fields. So just FYI, the first set of fields, those are all dynamic fields. The second fields are the core fields. Amount requested is a core field, and amount recommended is also a core field. So we'll add one, two, let's add the grant ID, and then let's save it. Come on.
Okay, Jeff. I'll make a comment or a note to follow up with you next week.
And then I think we can add a filter. Status, program type, program lead, funding source. That's not going to get us quite there, but we can always add a cross-card filter or status. Maybe we can get it from here by adding
Those super users are going to really need some training and report writing.
Well, yeah, that's why I think we want to really limit the number of super users that you have.
Right.
The biggest thing is first finding the fields that you want. So these XCY, this is all of your Lawson data.
Mhm.
we are looking for.
Location?
No, we're looking. So what I'm trying to do is try to. So this is going to. So this program is going to be the program level. That's level 1,
Oh, that's right.
right?
Mhm.
So we won't have anything in there yet, but that's level 1, and we probably want to look for the initiative. Let's see. Initiative equals. So we don't want equals. We want
Contains
initiative
or
is
in my budget level 3 location, or not in my budget level 3.
let's try that one. And see, there's also these cross-card filters as well that are available,
Okay.
which make things very complicated.
So
There's a lot you can
even
do. The cross-card filters, there's a lot you can do with them, but basically, it allows you to almost do, filter the. Why won't this save?
okay, so knock I don't really know. I, maybe we hold off on the subaward stuff.
Well, put it this way, I don't want to have it get too complicated. I mean, if Richard thinks adding that other vertical will complicate matters, I would either do it through the location or just not bother worry about the subaward part.
It's something that we could easily add in later.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the case.
And we could add it at either. We could add it either way. It would just we'd have to backpedal quite a bit. Depending on how much.
And while you're talking, I'm gonna start shutting down so I can try and catch my bus. But
Yeah. I have to. Go ahead.
I think
I would say just
I'm pretty sure we can extract the data on the request card by the budget level that we're asking for. We'll have to play with exactly how to get the data elements that we need, but I'm pretty sure we'll be able to get there. The only thought was, so at level 3, are we? Do we end up with it? So we're just talking about putting the subawards in as a second budget level 3 area, right?
correct.
So this is obviously level 2. That's great. One that I want. 4.
And sort of tying it at the same time to a location, so like subaward Kansas, you know.
So subaward Kansas, and then you would have a fund code that goes down below that, right? With an allocation against it for being spent.
Correct. Well, I guess I don't know. Yes.
Yeah, we have to confirm that part.
You can certainly put multiple elements at the level 3 and tie them to the parent, to its level 2 parent. And because it's not coming out of the grants, because we're not allocating any funds under the grant seeking tree, it still gives us a good structure.
Okay.
I would almost say I believe it. I believe it's going to work. I'm just not sure if we only have. My wife is trying to scare away the deer. They're eating her plants. They're hungry, honey. Leave them alone. So the only thing I'm thinking of is are we only going to have budget level 3, including subawards, and level 4 with fund codes where we need them, or are we going to populate a whole tree structure that's going to have like a couple thousand codes in it?
I think the idea was to kind of do a dummy code, kind of what you suggested. Ooh.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was hanging up my other phone, calling back into my cell phone.
Okay.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Walk and talk.
Yeah, so I think the idea was to just create dummy records if we didn't have anything, and to only populate what we needed to. So I don't think we would potentially have, the thousands upon thousands of code structures.
Okay.
Or the codes, but I don't know the answer to that.
Never say never.
Yeah, never say never.
Yeah, I think as long as we try and keep it as lean and clean as possible, and we're allocating at the lowest level, and we're not including the fund allocations on the grant seeking grants, I think we'll be okay.
Okay. I just want to know what I need to do to get it off the risk log.
Yeah. So as we kind of talk through it, I think it sounds like the cleanest way will be to add the structures that we had, add the subaward with a modified name in the level 3, and add it back to the same parent.
Okay. Level 3. I'm going to go ahead and put that down.
Because that actually works. And then you're basically just drilling. You're drilling through the same numbers, level 1, level 2, and then you're saying, oh, is this a regular award or is this a subaward?
Mm-hmm.
And the subaward.
Do we ever need to? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, Knox, do we ever need to be able to run a level 1 SP to a level 1 regular grant making, and then put those two together to show what was incoming and outgoing? Or is that?
No, not because they're different. I mean, we distinguish sponsored projects from our grant making.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to worry about that. Okay.
Right.
Sounds like it'll work.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm just chew on that, Knock, and I can follow up with you next week. And my goal is to have it off the risk registry by next Friday.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
So Kirsten, if you can, or Knock, if you can send me that list of 5 subaward categories.
Client.
Yeah, then I'll populate that list over the weekend, and we'll have this bit done by Monday morning. Because I don't want
okay.
I want this. We need to put to bed the changes so I can get everything built and we can test everything.
Okay, I'll forward it to you.
Okay, great, man.
Cool.
Thanks a lot. And look,
thanks. You guys have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, take care.
Thanks, guys.
All right, bye.
Have a great weekend.